Like,
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the South Star Classroom, episode 241. Wow, we're quickly approaching the 250 mark. Will that coincide with our nation's 250th?
I was just thinking
Probably
that
not.
we're
Yeah, maybe
just
we should just have
a
a big
week.
old like blue, red, white, and blue jamboree, huh? How about that?
Simone.
Yeah. So great topic today, very timely. I've seen some a couple of articles kind of floating around in the on the social media channels about people looking back at No Child Left Behind and talking about accountability and like where we are in this moment. So we're gonna get into it today. We're also going to use this show sort of as a trial run for our live show that we are doing this Friday at the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools annual conference in New Orleans. So Dr. Cole, myself, Omar will be in New Orleans later this week. We will miss you, Jubilee, but you will be there in spirit.
Clearly.
Yeah, you got important things. You got important stuff to take care of, so we get it.
I do.
Yeah, and so we're going to be doing kind of a similar run. So this is kind of like our trial run to get the ideas flowing. But we will be in New Orleans on this Friday. I think 9:45 a.m. is our slot. Is it Central Time at the conference center? So yeah, we're looking forward to that. But why don't we go ahead and get started with our check-ins? It's summertime. We just had the summer solstice, and things are supposed to be slowing down, but it sounds like everybody's still running around with like a chicken with your head cut off. So who would like to go first?
Oh, I'll go
Ladies
first.
first.
Yeah, running around like a chicken. I mean, that's it. That's it. School year wrapped up, and it's just like nothing really wrapped
Yeah.
up, you know. I can say that I had the most magnificent weekend. I took 3 flights in 4 days to get home to Brooklyn because my dad was being honored for Juneteenth in our city. He ended up with 2 citations from councilman and a senator, I believe, for his community work. He does food pantry work. Him and my bonus mom are pastors in Brooklyn to do a lot of community work in the neighborhood where I grew up. And so I was really happy to be able to join him for that. And then I flew to Atlanta to experience some of the single mom activities sponsored by the Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation. And so my son was in this camp, and he spent 4 days on Steve Harvey's ranch with our Army soldiers and mentors and, you know, clergy, and just pouring into young Black men specifically who are growing up without their dads. And it was a phenomenal experience. So while he was there, they had created an entire agenda and day of sort of pouring in for us moms, of single moms. Fantastic. And then we flew home. So that's why I say nothing wrapped up. It just keeps on going. And so maybe next week, oh my God, is that next week? Maybe next week in Costa Rica, I will be able to decompress and relax because my vacation will be next week. So there's that.
Nice.
There's my second.
Yeah, not a shabby way of decompressing there.
That's the place to go, I hear.
You could be decompressing in like El Segundo, right? You know, you could be decompressing in like Chula Vista, but you're like, nah, man, I'm gonna be on a zip line all up in Costa Rica. Decompressing on this here beautiful beach.
Yeah, very excited.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's awesome.
If you got a recommendation,
I've never been to Costa Rica, so in fact, it's odd. I've actually never been to Central America, although I've been to almost the entirety of South America. Never been to any Central American country and desperately want to see them. I'd love to see El Salvador, but I'm pretty sure I would. It's not a safe place. Let me rephrase that.
I think it's safer now, but yeah.
Yeah, my sister actually went there and had an incredible time.
With El Salvador?
Yep.
They've locked everybody.
She brought me back a bookmark too. It's my favorite bookmark. It's got some special bird on there, I guess. There.
Hell yeah!
I had a great time. Yeah,
dude, that's awesome.
I've never been to Costa Rica, but my two recommendations: go into any like Central American place. Don't pet the monkeys, and if you're walking on the beach and you see a big, brick-shaped item on the beach that has like tape on it and a flag of like Colombia, leave it alone.
Okay, gotcha.
Sound advice from the Beard of Wisdom, everybody.
Thank you.
Beard of knowledge, the Beard of Wisdom, man. I feel like he's always got some badass thing to parlay upon us. Great advice. Take it. What the hell,
Omar? How are you doing?
Some kind of time bomb or some shit?
No, it's a kilo of cocaine.
That's fun. Why not go?
Once he said it's the shape of a brick, because I would be the one to look over like, what
Ladies
is
and gentlemen, do not approach that. Someone's looking for that shit.
I would be
Old Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
You're gonna get murdered for that.
Oh my
exactly.
God. Touch la cocaína. Although in Peru, the shirts say la hoja de coca no es droga. And I agree with that.
Right, that's true.
La hoja de coca is not droga. It's fantastic. I am doing better than I've been doing in a long time. I'm going through kind of a rejuvenation, a reawakening, a resurrection, if you will. It's been a rough year, and I'm kind of getting out of this very sticky place that I was in professionally, personally. And I do a good job of coming on the show and try to be my best self. But ultimately, I think it's a testament to everyone who's listening. Just because I'm extremely animated and happy and excited on the show, which I tend to be, that's just my personality. Jubilee's met me, David's met me. They'd be like, yeah, this cat's kind of an animated guy. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're all wonderful and perky and feeling amazing all the time. And I think people get that impression. And no, man, we all deal with incredible grief and difficulties and stress and sorrows and insecurities. I think for me, the goal is just identifying them and kind of attacking them head on. And why do I feel this way? Is Omar gay? As in happy? I am. I'm quite happy. Yes. I am extremely happy right now, actually. But it's just kind of a reminder to all y'all, even if you're going through some stuff, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be one with your kind of inner self for a little bit and try to grow. And hey, that is the spirit of the summer solstice. So if those of you all watching are like, what the hell is the summer solstice? It's short, it's the longest day of the year. So it is the day where it's the most sunlight versus the darkness. And a ironic twist, every day after, demonstrates that lowering of the peak. Now days are getting shorter from here on out. But at that highest peak, the symbolism behind it is really about finding your inner voice, your greatest authenticity, kind of awakening that inner flame, if you will, about who you are, what your purpose is, and what you should be stepping into. And as consciousness grows on this planet, it's important to realize that we have cycles of life. And these cycles are representative of our feelings as well, man. So happy summer solstice to you all. And David, we get to celebrate
Wow.
summer solstice while eating oysters while Jubilee is surfing in Costa Rica. David, how are you, brother?
Wow, you see how vulnerable Omar can be when Charles is not on the show? That was beautiful.
Yeah.
It feels less guarded, right? Just kind of yeah.
That's a real check-in. See?
Yeah, that was
Good
deep.
feeling.
It was like
Thank you.
transcendental. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I enjoyed the transcendental movement a great deal.
A couple things. Looking forward to New Orleans for sure. The last time I was there, it was like right when the pandemic was like just starting to like become a thing. Literally like a week before the lockdown happened. So looking forward to going back. It's one of my favorite cities in the world because it feels like you're not. It's like one of those places in the U.S. where you're just like, it doesn't feel like you're in the U.S.
Yeah, true.
It just has such a crazy history of clash and mingling of so many cultures over the centuries, to create this very unique place. And I'm all about it. So looking forward to that. Let's see what else is going on. I got invited to this this really cool event. I don't really go out that much that often, but I got invited to this event. It was put on by it was like a culinary kind of industry thing that happens. They happen everywhere, but a bunch of like chefs and restaurants, like high end people, like Michelin star crowd, did this thing called the Tuna Takedown. And so it was a big event in like an industrial warehouse here in San Diego where they had like 150-pound tuna, brought it in. There were a couple hundred people there, and started, cutting and dicing this thing up, every single last piece of meat. And then they moved the tuna cuts to different areas within the warehouse facility where they had like different restaurants and chefs stationed. So they were preparing it in different ways. So they had like skewers, we had like tostadas. People were doing like oysters with sashimi in it. Just people had like cake with sashimi on it. Like the best food, the best, highest quality food. Most of it was raw, which I'm not a big fan of, but now I am. It's an amazing event, and it was like you have to get an invite to get in. But then once you're in, everything's free. They had like free wine and beer and people dancing from the ceilings, and it was very cool event. So just kind of reminded that, like, I live in a cool city with a very good and healthy culinary scene, which wasn't always the case.
Did you say people were dancing on the ceiling?
Yeah, they had like the people like twirling from like ropes on the ceilings, doing that whole thing. I don't know what that's called.
So like you talking about Lionel Richie, like, oh, what a feeling.
No. It's more like trapeze with ropes and stuff like that,
Oh, la la.
Yeah, it was something else. And then the only other thing, not having to do with me, but Micah has started a summer school class through the local community college district, and so he's taking a entry-level Spanish class through Cuyamaca College, and it's like a 5-week kind of intense course. And if he finishes it and passes it, it turns into essentially 2 years of high school Spanish.
Wow!
So for 11th and 12th grade, he doesn't have to take Spanish, right? He can just not take it, or he can take something else. Pretty interesting. So yeah, he's officially now a college student.
Love it.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah, we got to do a show on like concurrent and dual enrollment at some point in the future, because that's what it is.
Yeah, we do that, dude. It's awesome. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Okay. So where are we at on time? We're good on time. Let's go ahead and dive in. And hello to everyone in the chat. I think is that Bill watching from the Philippines? I don't know.
Not sure. They said good morning.
I don't know. Somebody, who knows, man. It's crazy.
Nice.
So I've seen a couple of articles floating around lately on in social media feeds, and it seems like this topic is coming back up. So I wanted to kind of take a pause and talk about a particular article that had just come out by what's his name? It was like an op-ed on No Child Left Behind, Ross Weiner. It's from a couple of days ago. So, No Child Left Behind was a federal. It was, for the duration that it existed, it was essentially the federal framework for school accountability, right, from Washington, D.C. Some people liked it. Some people didn't like it. Some people didn't even know it was the thing. And so what Ross Weiner argues is that No Child Left Behind may have been well-intentioned, but ultimately like too narrow of a focus. It was thought that No Child Left Behind was going to improve public schools, especially for low-income students of color. And it did in many cases. It seemed very promising because it forced schools and districts to publicly report achievement gaps. I was running. I was a principal for how many years? For 9 years at the same school.
9 times
under NCLB. So most of my principal experience has been in was under No Child Left Behind, and so I understood even from the perspective of a single site charter school what it meant and how it operated and how it functioned. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a little bit. No Child Left Behind made it harder for schools to essentially hide poor outcomes for Black, low-income, Latino, English learner, and special education students. There was quite a bit of transparency. Schools were scored across the country. It focused on test score gains and gains overall. Like, you got more out of No Child Left Behind if you were able to help like your learners that were struggling the most and moving them towards proficiency, as opposed to moving like kids that were doing very well and kept them there. So a lot of the emphasis was on students that had historically not been doing well in schools. And so now looking at what we call school quality, people essentially are having a moment where they're saying like, maybe that was too narrow. Thinking about like math, thinking about ELA, might have been too narrow of a way of judging schools. And so we really don't have anything in place, at least nationally right now, like No Child Left Behind. I know Texas has an accountability system, which I would love to hear more from you, Omar. Like in California, we have zero accountability, but we know that after No Child Left Behind, test scores declined. With the pandemic, they continue to fall behind, and they remain very stagnant. Let's see. And so Weiner argues that simply bringing back an NCLB, No Child Left Behind style accountability would repeat the mistakes of the past. So we have the opportunity potentially to return to, I wouldn't say high stakes testing, but some level of accountability, and then thinking about other ways to measure student success and school success and district success. And so that's what we kind of want to talk about on today's show. We do know that under No Child Left Behind, a lot of schools would literally teach to the test. So like you focused on like what was on the test, how it was worded. And that is kind of the narrow scope of the curriculum, essentially. And we weren't paying enough attention to like student well-being, broader learning, relationship building, a lot of what you see now. So in many ways, it feels like the pendulum has swung too far in the other direction. And especially with the pandemic, now we're all about like social emotional learning and, student well-being, students aren't even really showing up to school. I mean, we still have a problem with like what do you call chronic absenteeism. So I'll stop there, and I want to hear like your initial reflections on this New York Times piece before we jump into the timeline and some questions for you all.
You know, I got like a quick take, and maybe this is my rant for the day. And this is how rants happen, man. It's just like natural and just like kind of comes up in conversation. It's difficult just to like rant on my own. Here's my general kind of thought train in the realm of education, and I'll elaborate a lot on it on this show, but I think it's also just a general thought train for people in general. I don't think anyone has a friggin' clue what the hell they're talking about. I honestly think that the overwhelming majority of people, whether it's in corporate America or in education, don't have a clue what they're doing, don't know what they're talking about, lack an expertise, and then just kind of like throw darts in the dark. And what I mean by that is like, we talk about, like, let's just take the character education. That's an incredibly important thing. And there's a ton of research out there on how to correctly really do experiential learning, build these skill sets so that students are emerging in this. I get the feeling the overwhelming majority of these leaders are reading some broke ass book like Grit. You're like, yeah. And then applying it to like our kids and being like, that's what we should do. And then they make their personality and their entire curriculum based off of some book that, in my opinion, has absolutely no bearing on the low-income community. Because I'm like, those kids all have grit. That's all they've got is really grit. What you're not doing is teaching them how to apply that grit to a middle income and higher income bracket. You're teaching your higher income kids grit because they ain't got none.
Yeah.
And they will never have any, by the way, unless they go through, psychologically speaking, a severe emotional moment that makes them want to be cognizant and shift themselves. Grit is a very difficult thing to actually teach. And I just think that it's like, well, what's the book of the week? And let's just throw these darts. What I'm saying is that, and again, I'll elaborate, the people that are making all these decisions, lawmakers, how many of them are actual experts on both education and learning? Truly experts. How often are these people consulting experts? And I mean real experts. People like David, people like Jubilee, people who have effectively executed good work in a school, not just theoretical, not just read about it, not just thinking about it, but combining both the psychological, the theoretical, and the execution in a room and saying, here's what works. I think it's not often. And I think what I'm really beginning to see more and more of is this veil of false confidence and false expertise fall away. And really, I mean, it's like, David, you and I basically kind of calling out Alpha Academy and being like, hey, man, like you guys are basically just a workshop, a sweatshop for making money.
Yeah.
Not really teaching shit. So that's my quick rant and beginning thought on the subject. Kind of cynical, but like, not really. Not really. I think it's important to realize that the so-called experts aren't experts. And where are we taking our expertise from? Jude, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always saying like it's so important to begin with the end in mind. I understood where No Child Left Behind was going, and I'm still not over the Common Core era because I really think us having that conversation and that being implemented, the Common Core across
I agree.
almost all of our states, that was a
I agree.
conversation we needed to have, and we needed to have that level of calibration. We needed to have that sort of definition around what proficiency looks like. And I do believe that that was an awakening moment for us in education as a nation, where now it became sort of an opportunity to become the great equalizer, because my third graders in East New York, Brooklyn, like maybe by the end of third grade they still couldn't tell time, right? Or I had a third grade kid reading on a kindergarten level, and where was there going to be any information to be put forth to say, well, that's not okay? Who's saying that? It's like, well, he's just not reading. What's the big deal? And then he gets pushed on to fourth and fifth, and then before you know it, he's graduating from middle school, reading 4 grades behind grade level, right? So I think No Child Left Behind and the Common Core, even though I don't agree with its implementation and rollout, which is usually the problem with these things. We have these grandiose ideas. We don't include educators and the experts that are on the ground in the field, to your point. And so then we end up having more than an implementation dip. Like, implementation dips are to be expected, but we have like a stalled vehicle, and it doesn't go as far as it's meant to. It doesn't accomplish what it's designed to accomplish, because we're missing that cog, which is like, we're here, we're doing it, we're on the ground. Let us help you, create something that will be sustainable, that'll really have an impact down to the cellular level of a school building. Like, let the people on the ground inform the work, inform the process. And so I separate that when I think about No Child Left Behind and Common Core and all the things that happened around that time period. I separate the idea, the ideology from the implementation, because I think some of the ideology wasn't okay. Like, you shouldn't be, punishing schools and making them pay harsh penalties and all of that. So that was too much. Yes, the one size fits all in some ways, where you're not thinking about subgroups, and you're not thinking about the nuances of who is on the receiving end of this education, and making sure that this plan meets all the needs for all the students that it's serving, right? And then, so those are my issues with like the ideology part. And then the implementation part, my issue with that is that it didn't go far back enough. Right. So I think about like a pipeline, and like, how did No Child Left Behind go back to colleges? Like, how far did it go back to teacher prep programs? Because we made this plan, and then we are reaching out to the same pool of educators who may or may not be highly qualified, highly trained, and we're throwing money at it, right? And so it's not really addressing the true need. And so we're still having teachers that are not strong in the classroom. We're still having teachers that need more support, that may or may not be receiving it. We didn't ask people on the ground, the teachers, the principals, the coaches, and all of that. Hey, what do you think? How can we strengthen this? And so your implementation isn't effectively designed or carried out. And we're back to the drawing board after spending a lot of money and a lot of time trying to reform a whole system. So those are my initial thoughts.
Yeah.
That was pretty damn comprehensive.
A lot of money. Okay. So let me give you a lot of money. So I think the latest estimates for like combination of, federal and state funding, looking at an estimate, I think from the most recent that we have is probably a couple of years old. It's about $900 billion, right? Between federal and state and local combined.
$900 billion. The world right now.
Elon Musk still has what, 100? What does he have? 999 more million dollars in that, or is it 100 more million?
I mean, we're pushing $1 trillion now, and so point being is
your math is better than mine, girl.
When I started as a principal, my first principal job, we were at about half of that rate, about 555 billion, right? So I'm saying, like, back in 2007, under No Child Left Behind, I think we were getting about like $5,000 to $6,000 per student, maybe even less, right? That was like if they showed up, right? And so like really tight budgets, right? Um, and I'm speaking for like one small, shining light in East Oakland, California. That's still shining today. It's still shining. It's still like the top performer in the city. Um, but I mean, we were able to actually do the thing, right? We were actually able to do the academic work, the academic focus, the academic preparation for our students, and also to Omar's point, focus on culture through an advisory program. We didn't call it social emotional learning back then, but it's essentially what it was. Um, and our students were successful. Like 70% of them went on to 4-year colleges. The other about 10 to 15 went on to 2-year colleges. So the vast majority of our students had we had like 90% graduation rates, but that was like rigorous grading systems and like, sorry, you don't get to walk if you're missing your credits. We did not socially promote our students. And under the state's system at that time in California, we had what was called the Academic Performance Index. So
Yeah.
all of your academic outcomes went into one formula, and it spit out a number,
Mhm.
anywhere between 0 and 1,000, right? And so when I took over as a principal of the school, our API number was what was it, like 5? It was in the 500s, right? Um, Middle of the pack, not good enough. And by the time I left, we were in the mid 800s. So we had become like one of we were the top performing school in Oakland and one of the top performing schools in the state, serving that kind of a demographic, which was we every year we had like the one quirky white kid. It was just like we always had like one random white kid.
Yes.
Black and brown kids, low income black and
I
brown
love
kids.
those
That's what it
kids,
was.
man.
And we were able to like do the thing, right? And I understand this is like one school. There were a lot of like charter systems that were able to do the thing also. But let's be honest, like charter schools are just a drop in the bucket compared to overall school funding. And you talked about it earlier, Jubilee. Let's dig into it a little bit. I don't know if that's one of our questions, but like, what about consequences for schools? Like, at what point do you say, we're spending 100, or we're almost up to $1 trillion in funding, right? Um, like, what are we getting for it? Are kids even showing up? What outcomes are like safe and acceptable to say like this is kind of what we expect to see? Because it feels like we've totally like lost our focus on that, and the repercussions for kids that come from households with parents that are college educated, those kids are probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
But our immigrant families, our low income families, um, you know, growing up in Chicago or wherever, like those kids need the schools that are going to really pay attention to those outcomes. And I'm just not seeing any sense of urgency around it now. So I mean, like, what in your mind, um, what is fair game for putting on the table to say like, here's how we're going to measure school success, and if not, and if you don't meet it, like, what happens?
Yeah. If you don't meet it, then what happens? I don't know. I think what shouldn't happen is a school having to pay these fines, like a civil suit. It's just that to me is not helpful.
Hmm.
And I think when I always look at the penalty from both sides. It's like, okay, so a school doesn't meet the goal or the expectations. Not only do they get a slap on the wrist, a slap on the hand, but they also are fined, right? So then on the flip side of that, right, pre-penalty, that means you're not creating authentic urgency, you're creating anxiety and angst and a compliance based environment or a compliance driven environment. And so then that becomes more about the numbers than it does about growth, than it does about effective instruction. And that shifts to just winning, which or the appearance of winning. We wouldn't allow that in any other in any other sector, right? I just watched my Knicks win, right? They had to fight, they had to win, right? It was more than just, it was the points on the board, right? Like, yeah, but it was also the way in which they engage with one another, engage with the sport, right? And that matters, right? When Wembanyama did whatever and shoved Jalen Brunson to the ground, we didn't like that. We said that was flagrant because that's not what the game is about, right? And so I think you get what you I think you get what you focus on. And for school districts, when you're focusing on numbers so that you don't have to be fined, or you don't have to pay this, right? Or you don't have to do that, or you don't end up on some list, it has the tendency to shift the focus of the adults to avoiding that at all costs. And I think that's problematic, And so I think in terms of what we should be focusing on,
Had
yes.
like the big cheating scandal in Atlanta a
Yes.
while back.
And Atlanta, Washington, D.C. had one as well.
I'm sure. Yeah.
That's I think what comes out of that kind of, that when we create that kind of context for schools, and it becomes less about whether or not Johnny can read, right? We will make it look like he can read, right?
That's
we
crazy.
will we will have a Scantron scandal. We're gonna, what I'm saying?
We're not gonna do the work to make sure that Johnny can read, but we're gonna game the system to make it look like he can read. Yes. And we're gonna be happy with that.
And we're gonna be happy with that when we put our heads on the pillow at night. We're gonna be happy with that, because when we get that report back for AYP, for adequate yearly progress, when we get those numbers back, we're gonna look good on paper. But if you start to talk to Johnny and you give him a running record, you're gonna see Johnny still can't read, right? And so I think, again, I don't think No Child Left Behind was terrible in all the different ways. I know I have my own criticism of it. I think anything can work when you keep the main thing. But when you add money, penalties, a punitive nature to it, it shifts the focus. And when people want to keep their jobs, it's going to become less about proficiency, less about growth, and more about just looking good on paper so that you don't have to pay the fine.
Wasn't like the going theory, like if you want to keep your job, do your job and do it well? Like what happened with that?
No. Doing it well means making the school look good. Like that's where the whole teaching to the test.
Well, is when you represent Queens, but I was raised out in Brooklyn.
I was raised out in Brooklyn. I mean, I used to tell my teachers, because I mean, when I had to hire, I'm always listening for, educators that understand the importance of data and how to utilize it to make decisions, both instructionally and just broad range for your classroom, right? And I had to build the culture, right, in my building that we don't teach to the test. I had to build that because all teachers I hired, right, except for the ones that I had worked with before in previous settings, they came in like, okay, where's the test? Where's the interim assessment? Where's the benchmark? Because I need to know what these questions are. I need to know what the standards are. And I'm going to take that and put it in my lesson and drill that so that when they get it, it's like, no, that's inauthentic. And that's not real data because you've coached them around. They need to have automaticity, habitually, reflexively be able to call out on that skill and show that they've mastered it. That's true mastery and proficiency. Right. And so I had to build a culture around that to say, we don't teach to the test here. We use the information we gather to inform our instruction. And then we teach for standards mastery. That, I believe, should have been the focus, the conversation, and then removing any roadblocks and barriers for our multilingual learners, for our students with disabilities, for our students in poverty and shelter, whatever it is. And we should have figured out through an equity lens how to remove those barriers to make sure that you could access and grow to proficiency as well.
Just a quick shout out. God dang. I don't know what you drank today. I don't know what you ate today. Man, it's not that on previous shows you haven't been amazing, but like you are literally just hitting bullseye after bullseye
Yeah.
after bullseye
Yeah.
today, Jubilee. Like, God dang,
Yeah.
we gotta like AI these clips and send them out. It
This is my
so
jam, like part of it.
perfectly said,
Yeah.
so perfectly
It's good.
detailed,
It's good.
so knowledgeable. What I'm gonna do is like, I want everyone to kind of think if Jubilee was talking about the micros that are desperately necessary inside of the school, I want to zoom out like 10,000 feet into the air and look at the macros. Because what she said, like, should be repeated 1,000 times over, studied and practiced. But let me zoom out for a second and ask you all and our audience a couple of questions. Because I'm literally having the same conversation with our school leaders right now.
Yeah.
We make a ton of assumptions as adults. Now, as I dive into this work at a little bit of a more like 10,000 foot level than in the classroom, I ask myself some critical questions like, can these people read? And I don't mean the students, I mean the teachers.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't mean that in a disparaging way.
Yeah, it's being real about
them
it
at all. But 52 to 56% of all Americans, regardless of socioeconomic, race, class, all that, read at the 6th grade level.
My
the
God.
overwhelming majority of my fellow citizens, our fellow citizens, read at the 6th grade level, which is a testament to how horrific the school system really is and the failures that they are. But okay, who are these other, 40, my math, like 44%? It would be very interesting to be like, what is the reading level of our teachers? Now, let's say that they can read, which, my teachers can read. Does it mean they know how to teach how to read?
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone taught them as an adult. These are the mechanics of teaching a child how to read. So as I was going through my teacher education program, which, I brag, it was a very excellent program. Granted, I was in 6 through 12. They made an assumption that these children already knew how to read. And I had to go back and dip into the science of just like two things. Do we know how to teach kids how to read? Because that's something Mama Toya probably has a huge grasp and understanding of, but underestimates how many adults actually know that. And then, have we done any practical work into how do people actually learn? Like, what are the mechanics going on neurologically to help people understand just the science of like, how do people learn? Like, is reading and writing a utensil for learning? Sometimes. And those of us that have studied ingrained education know that like the best way to learn something is to teach something. But there are scaffolded levels of which one has to actually go through that process in order to put them in a position to get there. So if we zoom out and assume, do our teachers actually know how to do this? I think what we're going to find is like, I don't think so. Like, I think our teachers' reading levels may be significantly lower than we thought they were in the first place. Thus, how are they going to teach their students to read at a college level? They themselves may not be at a college level. Do they know how to teach children how to read? Do they know how to teach literacy? And then more importantly, are teachers equipped with the strategies on understanding how human beings learn, therefore using those strategies inside of the classroom? Because here's what's up, David. When in doubt, any teacher in the classroom that's like, what do I do? Will always refer back to how their favorite teacher taught them.
Yep.
Cool. But the problem with that, especially like I'll give the statistics in El Paso, because the statistics have hardly changed. Anywhere from about 16 to 18% of all students in Region 19. Region 19, ladies and gentlemen, is the 13 school districts and the charter districts within this massive geographical area that is El Paso County. You know, you're talking about like 1 million people here. Of those students within Region 19, only 16 will graduate from college, 16 to 18%. So what you're doing is essentially putting into a plan as a teacher something that was effective for you. Well, you were the 16% that went to college. Didn't work for those 84%. And this is what I'm getting at, David, is like Jubilee zooms in on the strategies and the techniques and the ideas behind what should be going on inside of classrooms. I want us to kind of pull back and examine these massive ideas of like, what is the science behind learning? What are the strategies that actually work with literacy, and use that as a microcosm to then say, do the people inside of the building, inside of the school district, and inside of that Congress actually know what works, therefore are implementing policies that will work? And that is my deep kind of situation with No Child Left Behind and ESSA, is that like, look, dude, like I'm all for the accountability. I'm all for reading and math, because like those two things build neurological pathways. Those two things really help build the brain. The thing is, with all the social emotional learning and all those other things, radically important, yet it goes back to my initial statement, probably created by people who wanted to make a buck, didn't know what they were doing, because I've bought curricula all over the place, and most of it is garbage, David. And you know it. Garbage. And it's just people make a buck from the education system. And these people are not experts. Therefore, what's being implemented inside of our school isn't working because it wasn't created by people who actually know what the hell they're doing. And I think that's a testament to the whole system of like, shit. Have we actually?
Yeah, that's
a question.
That's a pretty scary thought there.
It is.
I want to go back to go ahead, David.
Well, I want to point out a couple of things. So
you want to go back to Cali, Jubilee?
Yes.
Back to Cali.
I can't help myself. I can't help myself, David.
You can't help yourself with the 1990s hip hop pop culture.
Exactly. Continue, sir. Cut you off.
So in California, I'm just thinking about at the macro level also. You know, we're one of the, if not the largest state in the union, right? Mm-hmm. Currently, I think like the 4th largest economy in the world if we were our own country.
Typically,
and
yes.
A state that is now where Latino, brown-skinned people are no longer the minority, like we're the majority, right? We make up the majority in the state. That's, you know, on planet Earth, right? That's a big thing. But also at the same time, what's happened is in California in 2013 was the last year that students took the high stakes STAR testing, right? So it ended. Not in Texas. You guys have the extra R in there. In California, it was just the STAR. In 2015, in California, the state legislature voted to approve the end of the California high school exit exam, which was a test that was given, I think, starting in like 10th grade, and you could retake it over and over and over again. You had to pass this test to like be able to graduate high school. It was essentially an 8th grade level test, right? We got rid of that. In 2000 recently, I think in the last like maybe I would say in the last like 5 to 10 years, we've also waived the requirement for a basic skills test called the CBEST for teachers. So now you can like, I don't know, bring in a poster presentation or a video that your grandma created to say that like you're an amazing person, and that'll pass. So we don't even have like a benchmark floor assessment for incoming teachers to go to your point, Omar, to say like, do they even understand this potentially flawed curriculum? right? And the design of it and how to like execute on it. Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking like that's I think it's a problem on the accountability side, and to your point, Omar, it's a problem on the development of what is actually an effective and useful like curriculum. Yeah, so we're in deep shit. We're in deep shit right now.
I think we're in super deep shit because I think that the hypocrisy and the like, what's the right word? Like the charlatanism. Like the more I go out there and the more I ask in-depth questions and the more I'm like, great, like you say this, but tell me how. Show me how. Show me a time you've actually done this. It is fucking crickets, David. Crickets.
Yeah.
Let me tell you,
You know, it's like Doc says, like we out here on our own, but it's not just that we're out here on our own. We're not out here on our own. It's one thing if we were able to do these things uninhibited, without restraint. We out here with a menagerie of charlatans creating epic levels of noise.
Yeah.
Saying, I know what I'm doing and you should buy my shit. And it's idiocracy in one. I think it's why Bill is so pissed. Like it's finally kind of dawning on me. And I'm like, man, like Bill is just like pissed off. And like, I'm with him because this guy knows what the hell he's talking about so well and knows how to probably execute it in an exceptional way. And is just looking around and being like, why is no one paying attention to this? And it's like, well, Bill, like, you're probably one of those unique specimens on earth that has done it, implemented it, and created it, like Jubilee, like David. And like, guys, we're in a shockingly slim minority. And what scares me about that is that while we're in the minority, I think part of the majority wants to shut us up because, like, we can expose their hypocrisy. And when I ask, like, where are the experts? Do they actually want to hear from the experts and actually want to make this better? I'm in a very interesting state of mind right now because I think I can think about not just the reality, but the political components of it all and wonder, like, hey, man, how do we go about actually doing this work and actually getting lawmakers to hear from experts and creating public policy that's rooted in expertise and not just lobbyist bullshit.
Yeah.
You know?
Listen, I was just
Please.
reminded of this program that my bonus mom did years ago. She was the first teacher in our household, and she got one of her master's degrees she got from Fordham University. And at the time, they were piloting a program called the Ennis Cosby program. It was in honor of Bill Cosby's son, and who was going to school. I think he was going to go get a doctorate for like special needs or something like that. But within this program, they were teaching like how to teach reading, the role of phonemic awareness, one-to-one correspondence, even supporting students that had dyslexia, and then in partnership with like Columbia Teachers College, I believe. And that was a solution. That was a solution. It wasn't hidden. And the idea was if we can get this cadre of teachers to understand how to teach children how to read, right? One teacher could impact hundreds of students, right? If we get this right. That's one. Two, charter schools have been around, I mean, almost since Jesus was born, almost. Yet still we haven't figured out how to leverage all of the jewels and wisdom and learning that has taken place in the landscape of the charter world. How?
Yeah.
Like, we may not like, all of the politics and things like that surrounding the success, CMOs and the uncommons and all that, but they have learned and developed some really great tools, resources, and understandings as it relates to teaching reading and math. And yes, their scores are magnificent, right? But I've visited, right? And I've also visited traditional public schools, right? That have come up with amazing ways to really get down to the crux of effective instruction. Yet we have not found a way to leverage those understandings and replicate that and codify it across the system. To
Yep.
me, the answers are already within our systems.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
exactly.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yep.
Like like every few years, everybody's looking around like, oh my God,
Crazy.
our scores are terrible. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? It's like the answers are there. The question is, are we going to actually take the time to go see it in action? Are we going to take the time to extrapolate what is working? Right. And I get it. Everyone's context is different, but there are some things that are tried and true that they will work across the board. Right. Figure out how to codify them, figure out how to replicate them, let the
Yep.
experts build it out, and then let the policy support what we know will work for all the children that we serve. And so I do think that part of the issue is, yeah, the politics that surround it, and the fact that maybe people do like the fact that education is always on this indecisive merry-go-round instead
Yeah.
of allowing the people who know best to make the decisions to say, all right, this is what is going to get our children growing and proficient. I think maybe the powers that be maybe don't want that. I don't know, because to me that part of it isn't difficult. Like I always say, the answer's in the room. We have the answer already. Just have
So
to.
we're getting close on time here. So I want to help us to like transition out. But so we're going to do a closing thought, and the closing thought is going to be like, just think of, in addition to like core academic, math and ELA, like what else do you think is important to measure? Right. That's it. But I'll do my closing thought on, this thing that we're talking about, because you have, I think one of the challenges that charter schools face, and I faced it, I'm sure you faced it, Jubilee, Omar, I know you have, is that, we can have these great big accountability systems set up. But it always feels like when charter schools aren't meeting the mark, like we pay 3 times the price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe with the exception of being in Texas, because I know they're about to like take over Austin again, or not again, but things are not looking good there. So I think Texas actually has some like good stuff cooked in, but for the most part, like, I mean, in California, like there really is never any kind of like penalty for running a school district over the course of several decades, where you've demonstratively proven that you're okay with a third of Black and brown children being proficient in reading and math, and that's on a good day, right?
Yeah,
it's like nothing ever happens, right? And so you talked about some of the innovations that happen, and why can't we replicate? Why can't we study and then replicate this stuff? There's a brand new contract in front of the Oakland Unified School District Board now. It's a new tentative agreement with their teachers union, and they have sliced and diced and cut back on how much PD time is allowed and required to essentially like for a week, like I think somewhere between like an hour or less than an hour, right? A week. That's like professional development time when you actually are doing the work of like instructional planning, of collaboration. I mean, they've just squeezed it all out. So if teachers aren't mandated to like be in a room with other teachers to like improve the craft of teaching, like where's it going to happen, right?
Yeah.
The system is completely broken. So, and that, I'm not being dramatic about that. I'll get you the exact information, but I've seen it and it's ugly. So, with that said, like, what would you add to the if there was a new accountability system in addition to, let's just say, math and ELA, like what would be important, do you think, to add to it?
Man, I mean, I got like the quick answer, and it's a shout out to my friends at Big Picture Learning, because they've really been honing in on this since the 1970s, and they've got some just wow otherworldly, brilliant people. And what they've come up with is this badass flower. And imagine like this kind of stem, and then it's got these 6 petals, and these 6 petals are really what they teach and what they hold accountable. So like one of them is social reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
And social reasoning can be, you know, they have this badass rubric that explains exactly what it is, exactly kind of the acumen levels as you grow. And you've got to be able to demonstrate that you not only comprehend this through coursework, but in real life application. And some of the social reasoning isn't just like, hey, here's like anthropological information, historical information. You understand like cause and effect and critical thought. It's a lot of it is like, how does human psychology play into the decisions that people make? How does math and money play into the decisions people make? So it is extraordinarily brilliant and high level. And it's something that I'm very much trying to bring in and implement here at EPLA, because I think it is a radical new way of preparing students for the real world. And it's, you know, it's got it all. So it's got the math, it's got the reading, it's got a literacy component, it's got a mathematical component, but it's got like a communications component, which I think is rad. Like, can you talk to someone? Can you ask Bible questions? Can you analyze? Can you write a letter? Can you write a letter by hand? And those are just the basics, David, just the basics. So what I'm saying is that I think for me, accountability towards math and reading is exceptionally important, but it should not be the only thing that we try to teach students on how to be successful in the real world.
Yep.
I would go forward with is a significantly more comprehensive display of real life skills. And I got to tell you, like, we're short on time, so go to Big Picture Learning and look up the it's called the IBPLC, the International Big Picture Learning Certification, and you'll see the rubric and the 6 petals of strategy that they have in terms of what they think is important and what they think is accountable, because that is something developed by experts that works. So much so that they're doing massive studies on it in Australia, and they're finding just incredible data on the success of these students. I'll leave it at that.
Nice. Jubilee, what about you?
Yeah. So I was thinking, if we're going to get kids to mastery, we got to get adults to mastery. I think that's one of the biggest.
Yeah, we got to get adults to mastery.
Goals, right? Like the whole.
I wanted to repeat that. That's brilliant.
It just like, to me, there is a misalignment, right? In the expectation. We're talking about proficiency for students. Let's get them there. Let's get them there. Let's get them to grow. Let's get them proficient. But what's the expectation around adult learning and adult growth and adult proficiency and adult mastery in whatever content area they're teaching? What we have to have that expectation. So I'm not, even before I get to accountability for test scores and growth, like, well, let's look at our teaching cadre. Like, let's look at these teachers. Like, let's begin the road to accountability in colleges and teacher prep programs. Let's start there, because we have a greater chance of, and really it's a 4-year waiting period, right? But it's an investment that I think would serve us well if we know, look, we're investing in the future generation of teachers by ensuring that when they come out, they're bona fide. They know how to provide effective instruction. Fine. Yes, they're going to have to work on classroom management, planning, data analysis, all the things. But I think we need to switch up what we do and what we focus on in our teacher preparation programs. And then also, so that's one, start getting the adults to mastery before they get into the classrooms. Secondly, I was like, why don't we treat money like the body treats white blood cells, right? So my dad always says, you can solve a problem, you just throw money at it, But like, the idea is that you don't want to just be splattering stuff against the wall, right, and hoping that it sticks. why not treat money like the body treats white blood cells when you have an infection? When you have an infection, the white blood cells go to the area where it's needed the most, right? If you are having, a gallbladder issue or, a stomach issue or something like that, that's where those white blood cells are going to concentrate their work, their focus. It's not going to go to your sinus because you're not having an issue there. And I think if we ever create a new accountability system, we need to treat it like that. That's where you get differentiation. That's where you get, all right, and where Omar is in El Paso, the money that is funding towards his school is going to go to what he needs the most. He's got a high population of multilingual learners. He's got folks, the babies that are impoverished or they're migrating to this nation or whatever. So he needs funds that's going to help support that, right? Where I'm from, right? They need early learning. They need to because they may have families that are not literate, they might need adult opportunities for learning to read, and they might need early learning for their babies to read all at the same time, right? And so why not treat money like that versus, well, we gave the schools, $900 trillion and no one didn't know. It's because you didn't have a specific strategy for how those funds would be used and provide an ROI that results in proficiency and growth for every single group of children that we serve, as well as the adults that serve them. There needs to be ROI for both. So
ROI, what is that? Tell the people.
Return on investment.
Return on investment.
That impact, right?
From the most important investment. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Impact. I think the next non-Trump administration needs to hire you to get this thing right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
That was great. That was great.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you heard it here, folks. Wow. Thank you all for tuning in. And thank you, Omar and Jubilee, for the conversation. We'll be back next week at our regular time. And if you are in New Orleans and you're listening to this, we'll be at the National Charter Schools Conference, specifically Friday morning from 9:45 to 10:45, where you can hear our other co-host, Dr. Charles Cole. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. And for everyone else, we will see you all next week. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. Be safe. Take care of yourselves. And we'll see you all soon. Peace.
Yeah.